You ever notice how betrayal doesn't kick the door in? It knocks politely? It was a Thursday. One of those nothing days where your routine wraps around you like a favorite old hoodie. Coffee, inbox, traffic, half-hearted jokes with coworkers, and home by 6 to the smell of garlic bread and marital indifference. I walked in and found her at the sink, sleeves rolled, humming to herself like we still had a rhythm. Her hair was tied up in the bun she only wore when she was relaxed, or pretending to be. "Hey, babe," I said, dropping my keys in the dish like always. "Smells good. What's the occasion?" She didn't turn around, just said, "Oh, nothing special." The thing is, it was special. Not because of the pasta or the playlist or the wine already breathing on the counter. It was special because I'd been away for 3 days at a regional sales retreat. Came back early. Wanted to surprise her. Spoiler, I was the one surprised. Now I didn't know anything yet. I didn't know that her perfume still lingered in the guest bathroom, but the towel was dry. I didn't know that the second wine glass wasn't for me. Not yet. But I felt something. You know that tension in the air, like a thunderstorm just waiting for you to forget your umbrella? Dinner was quiet. She asked how the retreat went, but her eyes didn't follow the question. Just hovered past me, on a fixed point like she was watching some invisible slow-motion crash. I gave her nothing. I wasn't suspicious yet, just tired. Or maybe too trusting. Same difference, really. The clue? It wasn't the lipstick stain on the spare wine glass. It was the brand of wine. Malbec. She hates Malbec. I asked, trying something new? She blinked. Huh. The wine. You hate Malbec. Oh, they were out of Pinot. She didn't meet my eye. Small thing, right? Except I'd been married to this woman for 7 years. Long enough to know when she was lying. Longer than it took her to learn how to lie convincingly. I washed the dishes while she took a call in the bedroom. "It's just Carla," she said, before the door closed behind her. It wasn't Carla. Carla's laugh didn't sound like a baritone in gym clothes. I stood there, hands in suds, and thought about our wedding day. Not in a sentimental way. In the way you remember investing in a stock that eventually nosedived. All that hope and blind faith bundled into a day of speeches and champagne. And here I was, listening to the muffled voice of another man behind a half-shut door. I didn't confront her that night. I waited, like a surgeon prepping for a clean incision. If I was going to open this wound, I wanted to be damn sure I knew what I was cutting into. She came out 15 minutes later, smile plastered on like wallpaper over mold. "Carla says hi," she said. I dried my hands. "Tell her I said the wine's great." She didn't catch the sarcasm. Or maybe she did and chose to ignore it. Either way, something had shifted. A quiet tremor under the surface. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of heartbreak. Out of curiosity. Because sometimes, the worst thing isn't discovering the truth. It's realizing how good they got at hiding it. I didn't turn into Sherlock Holmes overnight. That kind of transformation doesn't happen in real life. It's not like you wake up one day and suddenly start sniffing perfume samples and dusting your coffee table for unfamiliar fingerprints. No, real suspicion is slower. It's a leak, not a flood. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of the shower running. Normally, I'd roll over and enjoy the warm side of the bed she'd left behind. But this time, I just stared at the ceiling, arms crossed behind my head, listening. Not to the water, but to her. She was humming again. Same tune from the night before. Now maybe that doesn't sound like much, but here's what stuck out to me. She only hummed when she was happy. Or guilty. And trust me, they sound exactly the same. She left for work in a rush, said she had back-to-back meetings, and kissed me like I was a cousin she hadn't seen in years. Then she was gone. I made myself coffee and walked around the house like it belonged to someone else. That's when I saw it, barely tucked under a pile of magazines on the kitchen counter. A parking garage stub from downtown, dated the day before I got home. Thing is, she works midtown. Her office is 23 blocks from that garage. But you know what is next door to that garage? The gym. Not her gym. His. Trevor. A name I'd heard maybe 5 times in my life, always attached to neutral statements like, "Trevor says I should try that kombucha," or "Trevor did the layout for our newsletter." Trevor. The graphic designer. The guy with the sleeve tattoo and the smile that made waitresses tilt their heads. I once shook his hand at a work barbecue. His grip was soft. Too soft. Like he wanted to feel your pulse, not your respect. I remember thinking, no way she'd ever go for a guy like that. Turns out, I underestimated how boring she found loyalty. That stub was the first breadcrumb. From there, I got organized. Let me be clear, I wasn't snooping. I was verifying. Big difference. You ever search your own home like a stranger? It's a trip. I found a second toothbrush in the guest bathroom. It was blue. We both used green. I checked the laundry basket. No gym clothes. Then I checked the dryer. Bingo. Her leggings. Still warm. Smelled like vanilla lotion and lies. I texted her. Hey, did you work out this morning? 3 dots. Then nothing. Then, no. Overslept. Why? I stared at the message, thumb hovering. I didn't answer. Because here's the truth. I wasn't trying to catch her in a lie. I was trying to see how easily she'd give one away. That night, I checked the shared iPad she used for recipes. Safari browser still open. Google search. How to tell your husband you need space without hurting him. Oof. There it was. Not divorce. Not separation. Not even an apology. Just space. Like I was furniture. She came home late. Said she stopped for drinks with coworkers. Which coworkers? I asked, sipping water and not blinking. She paused a beat too long. You don't know them. Trevor must have changed his name. I nodded. Cool. That was the last conversation we had for the night. She scrolled her phone in bed with the screen tilted away from me. I stared at the ceiling fan, feeling the weight of every overlooked moment. The texts with a laugh too long, the change in passwords, the way her date nights turned into nights out. My dignity wasn't bleeding yet, but it was bruised. And bruises don't lie. I decided then I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. She wanted space? Fine. But I was about to give her so much space, she wouldn't even see me coming. Here's the thing about revenge. It's not about rage. Rage is messy. Rage kicks over furniture and shouts at voicemail boxes that don't answer. No. Real revenge? It's calm, cold, clinical, and it starts with listening. So I started listening. Not to her words. Those were basically placeholder dialogue at this point. But to the gaps, the patterns, the silences between the syllables where the truth likes to hide. She kept talking like everything was fine. Making weekend plans. Asking if I wanted pesto or marinara with dinner. But every sentence sounded like it had been drafted in a group chat before she said it out loud. So I played along. I nodded. I smiled. I became the best husband on paper. Took out the trash without being asked. Reorganized the garage. Bought her favorite oat milk. She started getting nervous. You can see it in the way she'd glance at me mid-sentence like she expected a punchline I wasn't delivering. Then came the test. One Thursday evening she said, Trevor's throwing a housewarming. He invited a bunch of us. It's just drinks and apps. Very casual. Casual. Like betrayal can be served on toothpicks. I set my fork down. You going? She hesitated. I mean, do you mind? I smiled. No. You should go. Sounds fun. That smile? Oscar-worthy. I should have had a little trophy waiting for myself under the placemats. She blinked. That was her tell. A single, rapid blink when she didn't know whether she'd just won or lost. I'll probably stay at Kayla's after, she added, watching me like a bomb tech waiting for a click. Cool, I said, drinking water like it wasn't the most poisoned moment of my life. She left around 7:30. New dress. Hair curled. Lipstick color I hadn't seen since our second anniversary. Once the door clicked shut, I sat down at the kitchen island and exhaled like I'd been underwater. And then, I opened the folder. I hadn't told you about the folder yet, have I? Well, about 2 weeks ago, after her browser history tried to erase me from her future, I started collecting. Quietly. Meticulously. Emails. Receipts. Photos. Anything that looked too much like a coincidence. If she left her laptop open, I'd run a local backup. If she logged into her email and walked away, screenshot city. I wasn't snooping. I was preserving. Because when the storm comes, nobody believes the guy screaming in the rain. They believe the guy who kept records. There was one email in particular that made me laugh, not a big laugh, more like the dry exhale of a man being buried under polite treason. It was a message from her to Kayla. Thanks for covering for me. You're the best. Kayla, the alleged sleepover host. Covering. There it was. She didn't even bother deleting it. That's how invisible she thought I was. So here's what I did while she was out playing Spin the Alibi. I made copies. Printed the email. Highlighted it in yellow. Stapled it to the receipt from the downtown wine bar, Trevor's usual Thursday spot. Then I made dinner. Not for her. For me. Steak, mashed potatoes, asparagus. The kind of meal you cook when you know someone else is about to lose their appetite. By 10:45, I heard her key in the door. I stayed seated, calm, like a man who just filed taxes and flossed. She stepped in. Her eyes caught mine. The mask almost slipped. "You're still up?" she asked, voice high, fake casual. "Yeah," I said, sipping tea. "I like the quiet." She smiled. "Kayla says hi." I raised my cup. "Tell her thanks. For everything." She blinked again. That blink was a crack. And me? I was just getting warmed up. Let me tell you something about liars. They hate quiet people. Hate us. Because liars depend on noise. They thrive in it. Arguments, accusations, emotional fireworks. They're distractions. Misdirections. Magicians waving one hand while the other steals your watch. But when you're quiet, when you're calm, that's when they get nervous. That night, after she returned from her girls' night that involved no girls, I didn't raise my voice. Didn't even flinch. I just sat at the kitchen table, calmly sipping my tea like I was a Buddhist monk on a layover. She gave me one of those, what, glances, eyebrows slightly raised like I'd forgotten my place. Like I was supposed to be in bed, asleep, harmless. "You're up late," she said. "I was waiting," I replied, eyes steady on hers. She tilted her head. "For what?" And that right there, that line? That was her stalling tactic. Answer a question with a question. Keep me on the defensive. Make me explain myself, because the moment she has to explain herself, the house of cards wobbles. I slid the manila folder across the table like a mob lawyer dropping evidence in front of a detective. "What's this?" she asked. "Your night," I said. "Documented." She didn't reach for it, just stared at it like it might explode. Inside, a printout of the email she sent Kayla, the receipt from the bar, and a photo. Oh yeah, the photo from a street came across from Trevor's building. You'd be amazed what a $12 subscription to public traffic footage gets you these days. "You went through my email," she finally snapped. "Correction," I said. "I saved what was already in front of me." "You left the tab open." She snorted. Actually snorted. "This is insane. You're acting like a stalker." "No," I said, "a stalker watches." I noticed. Big difference. She opened the folder now. Couldn't resist. Her fingers hovered above the photo. The one where she's laughing beside Trevor, her hand on his chest like he's the prize in a game show she won behind my back. The room got heavy. She wasn't even trying to deny it at this point. Just recalculating. You could see the gears turning behind her eyes, trying to find the angle where she could still be the victim. Then she hit me with it. "If you had a problem with me going out, you should have said something." God. Classic. I stood up, pushed in the chair like I was done with a job interview. "I didn't have a problem with you going out," I said. "I have a problem with you coming back." She flinched. Just a little. But I caught it. "Look," she said, shifting tone, trying out that soft, wounded register she only used when things were slipping out of her control. "I didn't mean for anything to happen. It was just, we were just." "Spare me," I said. "You don't trip and fall into someone's apartment, clothes optional. This isn't a Pixar plot." She looked down at the table. And when she spoke again, her voice had dropped the act completely. "Fine," she muttered. "You've been boring." There it was. The nuclear option. "I'm sorry, I don't come with a tattoo sleeve and a Spotify playlist full of red flag hits," I said, picking up my mug. "You don't see me anymore," she said. "Of course I don't," I replied. "You've been somewhere else for months." She stood now, defiant. Like this was the part where she expected a fight. The screaming match. The slam the door finale. But I wasn't giving her that. I took a deep breath, leaned against the counter, and said, "Do you know what I did while you were out tonight?" Her eyes narrowed. "What?" "I called my lawyer." She blinked. "Wait, what?" "I'm filing tomorrow," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket and tapping the screen once. "Divorce. No fault. Fast track. I already signed. Just need you to do the same." That's when it hit her. The game was over. Not because I caught her. Not because I yelled or cried or begged, but because I stopped playing. You see, that's what scares someone like her. Not fury, not sadness, but indifference. That quiet, composed exit where you don't slam the door, you take it off the hinges and walk through. She sat back down, suddenly smaller. Like someone had let the air out of the version of herself she played in this house. "You're really doing this?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. "But we have a life. We built." "No," I interrupted. "I built. You borrowed." She looked like she wanted to cry, but couldn't find the emotion. That's the thing with people like her. They don't grieve the relationship. They grieve losing their audience. Trevor doesn't want a relationship, she said suddenly, like it had just occurred to her. It was just, he's not you. That's the only thing you've said tonight that I believe, I said. She stared at me. I stared back. You really don't love me anymore? She asked. Oh, I do, I said. Just differently now. Differently? I nodded. The way you love a book you used to read until you realized you were the only one turning the pages. And with that, I left the room. She didn't follow, which told me everything I needed to know. The next morning was silent. Not the peaceful kind, though. No, this was courtroom silence. Tense. Stiff. The kind that makes your own footsteps sound like they're on a microphone. She was already awake when I came down. Sitting at the kitchen table in her robe, staring into a cup of coffee she probably poured out of habit, not desire. She looked up when I entered, like I was the stranger who wandered in during the third act of her life. You really called a lawyer? She asked. I opened the fridge, grabbed the creamer, her creamer, oat milk vanilla, and poured it into my mug without answering. She leaned forward slightly. I thought we could talk. I stirred the mug slowly. We did. That wasn't a conversation, she snapped. No, I said calmly, that was a diagnosis. She blinked, like she didn't expect that level of poise from the man she once described to her sister as predictable in a way that's kind of soothing. I sat across from her. Not angrily, not even coldly. Just done. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Look, if this is what you want, I won't fight you. But can we at least agree to handle this like adults? Absolutely, I said. In fact, I've already made arrangements. The house gets appraised next week. Everything's being split. Clean and fair. She looked relieved, which was interesting. That's when I knew she thought she'd gotten away with it. She didn't care about losing the marriage. She was relieved she wasn't losing the comfort, the image, her narrative. She could walk away and still tell the story her way. We just drifted apart. He wasn't spontaneous. We wanted different things. But see, I wasn't done yet. Because there's a difference between closure and conclusion. And what I wanted wasn't a clean ending. I wanted clarity. So I leaned forward and said, we are going to handle this like adults. But I'm going to make sure you remember this. Not just today. Every time someone asks why you're divorced. Her face tightened. Just a flicker. What does that mean? It means, I said, I've been the wallpaper long enough. You've leaned on me for stability, used me as your reputation insurance, and now you want to wander off without a wrinkle in your story. I smiled. Not wide. Just enough. I'm not stopping you, I added. I'm just giving you something honest to carry with you. She folded her arms. You're being vindictive. No. You don't know what vindictive looks like. I'm being thorough. Now, if you've stuck with me this long, you're probably wondering, what was my plan? Did I torture Carr? Out her on social media? Hack her Instagram and post the photo of her and Trevor under the caption, try the veal? It's full of betrayal? No. Too obvious. Too noisy. Too short-lived. See, my plan wasn't about humiliation. It was about exposure. So I waited. That night, I sent out a group email. Just a family. A few close friends. Her parents. Her sister. Casual tone. Friendly. Just an update. Hey all, wanted to let you know that Melissa and I are going our separate ways. Things have changed, and we've agreed it's best to end the marriage respectfully and quietly. I'd appreciate your support during this time. If you hear a different version of events from anyone, feel free to ask me directly. I'm happy to clarify. Then I attached one single photo. Trevor. Her. On his front steps. Her hand in his. Time-stamped. Smiling. No caption. No rage. Just clarity. I didn't send it to punish her. I sent it so that she couldn't lie anymore. No more control over the narrative. No more, he just grew distant, or we needed space. Just a picture. An undeniable moment. She found out the next morning. I know because she stormed into the room, face pale, phone in hand. You emailed my mother? I looked up from my coffee. You said you wanted to be honest. You humiliated me. No, you did that. I just provided the footnotes. She didn't scream after that. She didn't cry. She just stood there, trying to summon up the version of herself that used to win arguments by default. The version that knew how to twist silence into guilt. But I didn't flinch. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. People will talk, she said bitterly. I shrugged. They always do. At least now they've got the full cast list. Then, without looking at her, I added, I canceled our shared Spotify account too. You can take Trevor on a musical journey instead." She left the room. I stood there a while, sipping coffee that had gone cold, but tasted better than any espresso I'd ever had. Because this time, it was mine. My moment. My exit. And here's the thing, she tried to save face. She posted something vague on social media 2 days later. Something like, "Growth means letting go of comfort in pursuit of truth." You know, that yoga instructor energy they all use when they run out of explanations. She didn't mention me, but the comments told the story. "I'm so sorry. Here for you." One said, "I heard what happened." Well, that one didn't get a reply. See, I wasn't cruel. I didn't burn her life down. I just opened all the windows and let the light in. And she's the one who had to live with what it showed. You ever notice how silence doesn't feel like peace until you've earned it? It had been about 3 weeks since the folder hit the table and the truth hit the inbox. The divorce papers were signed, the appraisal scheduled, and Melissa was living out of a rental apartment with furniture that looked like it was rented by the hour. I'd seen pictures. Her sister posted one from girls' wine night at the new place. Half the comments were fire emojis. The other half were side eyes disguised as support. But me? I was doing renovations. Literal ones. She took her half, sure. But she didn't want the house. Said it had too much energy, like I was a cursed artifact from the museum of her failed choices. So I bought her out. At a discount. And the first thing I did was rip up the tile in the foyer. You know why? Because that's where she used to stand and do her goodbye peck before going out for nights that turned into lies. It wasn't the kiss that bothered me, it was the casualness of it. That see ya energy, like I was the guy who held the door while she snuck out the back of the life we built. Tile's gone now. Hardwood, warm, natural, solid, like me, before she wore me down to plywood. I didn't do it alone, though. I called an old friend, Colin, contractor, good with power tools, better with silence. The kind of guy who doesn't ask questions unless you hand him a beer first. Day one, he looked around the place and said, "You're gutting it, huh?" "Only the parts she touched," I replied. He nodded. "That's gonna be a lot of drywall." We both laughed. That's how I spent the first month of my freedom. Demo days and paint fumes, putting muscle and memory into every room she made feel smaller. Every project felt like therapy you didn't have to explain. I replaced her floral backsplash with matte slate. Ripped out the guest room wallpaper she picked to impress visitors we stopped inviting years ago. Took down every picture she hung crooked and replaced them with clean, blank walls that didn't lie. It felt good. Better than good. It felt like rebuilding me, not just a house. Of course, word got around. It always does in divorce circles. A mutual friend, Nick, stopped by one afternoon under the guise of checking in, but I could tell by the way he glanced at the missing living room wall that he was also checking for hidden chaos. "You good?" he asked. "Better than that," I said. "I'm dangerous." He gave me a look. "The quiet kind," I added. He stayed for a beer and gave me the update I wasn't asking for. "She's been struggling with the optics," he said, like he was describing a politician caught in a scandal. "Tried spinning the story for a while, but the group chat's not buying it." I shrugged. "She can say whatever she wants. I've got better things to build." He nodded toward the kitchen. "Clearly. And here's where things got interesting, because around week 5, she texted, "Melissa, just a single message. Do you still have the green Dutch oven?" My mom gave it to me. I stared at the screen. Now let's rewind a second. That green Dutch oven? Sat and used in our kitchen for 5 years. 5. I cooked every meal. She just liked having nice cookware around. Now, suddenly, it was important? I didn't respond immediately. I waited 24 hours. Let that text hang in the silence she helped create. Then I replied, "I do." But I gave it to Goodwill. No emojis. No explanation. Just the truth she deserved. She didn't respond. But I heard from her sister later, Lily, who called me just to say, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Apparently, Melissa wasn't taking my calm very well. The new guy, Trevor? Already fading out. Turns out graphic designers with ego issues and one-bedroom apartments don't age well in real lighting. Especially when there's no husband in the background doing emotional janitorial work. Funny, isn't it? She left because I was safe. And now that safety's off the market, she's walking barefoot through a minefield of her own making. Meanwhile, I had moved my office into the master bedroom. Got rid of the vanity mirror she used to sit at, scrolling through her phone and laughing at texts that were never mine. Replaced it with a standing desk and a view of the backyard. Started writing again. Not for her. For me. Short stories. Little essays. Notes to myself about the man I used to be and the one I was becoming. Because here's the twist. She broke something, yes, but I'm the one who gets to decide what it turns into. I'm not looking to date yet. I'm not finding myself in the arms of someone younger and more impressed by Spotify playlists. I'm just quiet, focused, dangerous in the way that only men who've survived betrayal without bitterness can be. Every night, I sit in my new chair, the one she always said was too big for the room, and I sip bourbon I never shared with her. I play jazz. I write. Sometimes, I get texts from mutuals saying things like, "She's spiraling," or "She thought you'd chase her." And I smile. Because I did chase her, at first. Then I realized she wasn't running away. She was already gone. Now, now I'm renovating. Not just the house, but the whole story. About 2 months post-split, I was feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Control. Not over her. No, that ship had sunk in shallow water, but over my own life. Over the silence, the routine, the mornings that weren't built around anyone else's chaos. There's a freedom in knowing you've already survived the worst someone could do to you and still woke up without asking permission. Then one Friday afternoon, she showed up. Didn't call, didn't text, just showed up. I opened the door, and there she was, Melissa in a denim jacket, sunglasses on top of her head, holding some kind of peace offering Tupperware. "Thought I'd drop off some banana bread," she said, smiling like she wasn't the final boss in my emotional video game. I blinked. "Did you think I was running low on baked goods?" She forced a laugh. "It's not poisoned. I swear." I didn't take the container, just leaned on the doorframe, arms crossed, and waited for the real reason she was there. She sighed. "Look, I heard you were doing some changes to the house. I guess I just wanted to see it." I smiled, but not the way she remembered. This one had teeth. "It's not your house anymore." Her face flickered. Then she tried the sentimental route. "You know, I do miss some things. Not just the house. The quiet. The way you used to make pancakes on Sundays." "You miss being centered," I said. "Not me." Silence. Then she asked, "Are you seeing someone?" I couldn't help it. I laughed. One of those genuine, startled laughs that feels like it cleared dust off your lungs. "Not yet," I said. "But don't worry. When I do, I won't text you about cookware." That one hit. She stood there a little longer, waiting for something, redemption, maybe. A crack in my voice. A flicker of old affection. "Instead," I said, "take care of yourself, Melissa." And I closed the door. Behind it, my house felt warmer than it had in years. 3 days after the door incident, I got an email from her. Subject: "I owe you more than banana bread." It started soft. The kind of carefully constructed guilt letter someone writes after realizing they didn't just lose a person. They lost the version of themselves who looked good standing next to you. She admitted things. Things I already knew. How she felt small and bored and unappreciated, but never told me until she decided to lie instead. How Trevor wasn't the answer. He was just the echo chamber for her own selfishness. She ended the email with, "I hope someday you can forgive me. I still think about you when I make coffee." I didn't reply, not because I didn't have things to say, but because some endings deserve the dignity of silence. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, just in case she forgot how good I was at keeping records. Then I went and bought myself a new coffee maker, one that didn't whisper old ghosts every time it brewed. About 6 months after the divorce, I got invited to a mutual friend's wedding. You know how that goes. Half the people there are pretending not to compare lives, outfits, or waistlines. The other half are drunk. I showed up alone, not because I couldn't bring a date, but because I didn't need one. That night, I wore the one suit she said made me look like I had my life together. Felt poetic. She was there, of course. Melissa, across the room in a navy dress that probably looked better in the mirror than it did under the chandeliers. Her hair was shorter, makeup heavier, like she was trying to paint over something that wasn't healed. Our eyes met once. That was all. She didn't wave. I didn't smile. But she saw me laugh, really laugh, at something someone said near the bar. And I could feel her watching. Not longing, not regret. Realization that she had become the minor character in my comeback story. She left before the cake was served. I stayed for seconds. Here's what revenge really looks like. It's not breaking windows, or setting fires, or sending angry paragraphs at 2 a.m. It's success with no explanation. It's peace without their permission. It's building a life so good, they can't decide whether to hate you or admire you. And the worst part? You don't care either way. Today, I have new furniture, new habits, new friends. The kind of people who don't shrink in the presence of real feelings. The kind who show up without needing to be begged. Melissa? She's still out there, I'm sure. Swiping through distractions, trying on new stories, calling herself healed, when really she just changed costumes. And me? I'm not just healed. I'm rewritten. Every morning, I wake up and brew coffee in the quiet house she used to run from. I sit on the porch with my new dog, rescued, not purchased. We listen to jazz. We don't chase drama. We don't miss liars. And every so often, I get a message. A hey at 11:43 p.m. A memory from nowhere. A crumb. I never answer. Because I'm not interested in returning to a fire I already escaped. She thought I'd be bitter. She thought I'd break. She thought I'd beg. But instead, I rebuilt, brick by brick, with clean hands, quiet strength, and no apologies. Because the best revenge is becoming someone they'll never be brave enough to meet again.